Mr. Kate, invited guests, and to you, the public of the West Coast, what a great day this is, and what a fantastic job Doc and the Historic Places Trust have actually done here to actually restore this. I can remember 35 years ago coming in here and there was nothing here at all. It's just amazing what you can actually take from nothing and build it into such a heritage item that we have here today. But we're here to celebrate this fantastic occasion. If we go back to 1886, that's when Thomas Brunner came down. He actually came up here and found the coal seam, and that was the start of really an industrial revolution for New Zealand. The New Zealand industry relied entirely on the coal from this Brunner seam. In fact, in the mid-1880s, 1/3 of all the coal produced in New Zealand come from this side here, which is no mean feat at all. It's brilliant what they did here. But then, if you go back further, in 1864, a fella called Reuben Waite, he brought a steamer down. It was the first steamer ever to come into the Grey River, called the Nelson. He came down from Nelson and he was asked to bring back coal from this side here. From 1864, amongst the gold rush, he came up here and got 40 tonne of coal, and that was shipped back to Nelson and across to Wellington, and that's when the whole thing started. Later on, if you work your way up the Grey River here, the actual Maori, they brought their greenstone up this river in canoes. They took it across Lake Brunner and up through Harper's Pass. That's where it all started happening. Then later on, the coal, the original coal taken down over the years, was taken down in punts. They had no roads up here, so the only way you could get it down was long rowboat type punts. They were quite large. They'd have a horse that would tow them up from Greymouth. They'd have poles and oars, depending on the type of river they were in. They'd use that. The horse would actually climb back on the punts in some areas and just sit there, and they'd actually bring the coal up and down the rivers for many years doing that. There's many drowned, and there's a lot of sad stories to be told from it all. And if you look up the river here, it's not just about this side here, it's about this whole valley. If you look at the Dobson mine down there were 21 killed down there and in a disaster. Then if you work further up here, there was Wolves End. That was a huge employer for a long time there. We recently put up the wheel down there as a monument, and a lot of work has worked in that mine as well. In fact, that mine there was well known for the Compo King, and that guy would, down in the pit, he would actually chop your finger off for a certain amount of dollars so you could go on the compo, and that's a fact. The old timers will still tell you that here today. So along here then you had the Tyneside mine over the other side, and looking across here at the Tyneside mine now, it's an absolute credit to what they've done across the other side there. But if you look, when you're leaving, if you look by the chimney up there to the right, when you're going up the track, you'll see the big hole there that's been discovered recently. That is the actual pit and the actual shaft where we went down, and it's bricked for, I think it's 90 feet down, and that'll be one day restored too by Doc or Historic Places Trust. I'm sure they'll do that as well. So it's just brilliant. And I don't need to tell you about up on the hill there. If you look at behind you, the pine trees on the far side on the hill, that was where the Cosgrove family lived. Now the Cosgrove family lived up there. They had 7 children. And on one night, a good West Coast stormy night, the slip came down from behind that, and the mother and the father were in one room and the 7 children in the other room. The whole house got bowled over. The Terminus Hotel, owned by a Mr. Jones next door, that went as well. He was killed, and the 7 children were killed instantly that night. Could you just imagine that happening? The mother was dug out of the mud, and she still had in her arms the baby. She couldn't get the baby out of the mud. What a tragic story that was. So this area's got a huge amount of tragic stories in it. And then, of course, there was the Brunner disaster in 1896 when 65 miners met their fate. And that's what we're here today, to actually remember those people. But up the back here, there's St Kilda. There's a whole town up the back here, and that went right across. There's the Kilgardy track that leads over the top, right across to the Denali and Rananga. It's a magnificent heritage area. It's got all the rocks because of the barber and the fogs in those days. Up around Mount Sill, where they walked across here, there are stones 1 metre apart all the way across so people could get through the barber and the fog across here. So it's really brilliant, and the heritage around here has got a long way to go even now, even though it's come a long way. It's just great to see. The future, I think the future is about preserving what we've got. There's another extensions on this. I see up at the Blackpool mine, we owe so much to the coal mining industry here on the west coast. Up at Blackpool, there's chimneys like over the other side. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there in the future, and I'm sure between DOC and Historic Places Trust, this will eventually happen. And also, Minister Kate, if you look up on the hills here, on the other side, and up over the back of where we are now, that was all housing, that was all mining once. The whole lot of that has been worked over. It's been, the minerals have been worked out of that area. And do you see a waste barren area? No, you don't, because on the west coast, everything regenerates so quickly because of our climate, and so it lends to the mineral extraction in that conservation estate. But as us coasters will tell you, we want the balance. We want to have balance. We want to have our forests, our rainforests. We're proud of those forests, but we want to have economic development as well. So it can be done, and we just need to get that through to the people in Auckland that think that we're going to go in there with our tractors and our power saws and cut it all down, because we treasure what's up there. It's beautiful. So look, enjoy the day. Let's celebrate this site that's been so spectacularly put together by the Department of Conservation. Let's celebrate it. Thanks for coming down, Minister. To everybody here, let's celebrate this marvellous historic place that it is today. Thank you.